Hello, everyone. We are live at the Criminally Mental Podcast. Zach, what is so funny?
This episode is such a bad idea. I can't be the only one that was like, hey, let's bring our spouses on the show. I mean, no, 100%. I'm into it. Let's go.
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? My whole thing is, what more could people really learn about us that they don't already know? But I'm sure we're going to find out really quick.
That's a given. Anyway, as usual, my name's Zachary Galloway, and here to introduce our show. Oh, Kody, say your useless tag.
Oh, yeah, I'm also Kody. Thank you, Zach, for letting me jump in there.
You are but a character in my play, so continue, sir.
But we are excited to have both of our spouses on today, and here is...
Welcome to the Criminally Mental Podcast, where we talk about mental health and the criminal justice system, with your two hosts, Kody Green and Zach Galloway, currently both on parole and compassionate release. Now, here's the show.
So I have to tell this story.
For
those of you guys who fucking know our show, I always say something a little goofy about his voice. He's actually a very talented voice actor. He's a friend of our show. Last episode, I said that his voice was so soothing that an abortion clinic contacted him to do the welcoming greeting at their clinic. He called me up like a couple days ago to inform me that was real life. Like an abortion clinic actually used his voice to do a voiceover. So I don't know if I need to apologize for being correct or
I remember how excited you were, like not excited, but how proud of yourself you were. You messaged me and you were literally like, what are the odds that you make a joke about him voicing something over for an abortion clinic? And then they actually did. You were so excited about that.
Yeah, I was. I mean, legitimately, I'm proud. I mean, I'm proud, but hesitant in a way. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah. But seriously, like you said in the intro, I'm a little nervous today because we are having both of our spouses on, which is really cool. I get to have my wife, and for some reason, your fiance, said yes to you. So we also have him joining us today, which is awesome.
Probably has something to do with these shoulders. You see my gains lately, dog? Check this out.
Yeah, it could be that. I guess I'll have to ask because I am genuinely curious.
No, this episode was originally a really bad idea for listening, and I'd like to go on record that it is still, in fact, a bad idea. So, as they said at the end of the Titanic, Leo, stop touching her. This camera, stop rolling. This is gonna be a train wreck. Let's go.
All right, so without further ado, let's bring on Allison and Eddie. This is so cool that we don't have to have a third camera here. We can just include everyone in two screens. I'm pumped about it.
And for those listening, our spouses are lovingly next to us.
And we did start a little bit earlier today just because I feel like we're going to have a lot to talk about. And, especially with Eddie dating a 63-year-old man, you just got to wonder how that came to be.
Bro, do you understand that people actually think I'm 63 years old now?
Yeah.
Thing.
When you did that video saying you were 33, people literally in your comment section were like, no, you're 63. It's on famous birthdays. And that brings me so much joy. So much.
The best part about this is when I emailed them, they literally told me, like, no, you're not him. And I was like, wait. And like I was at that moment, it was like, wait, hold on, I am him, right? Like that's they said it with that authority. So I mean, like I still am en route with trying to convince them that I am myself. So that's not going anywhere soon.
Which won't happen because they only recognize you with the podcast email, and you forgot how to log in, even though I gave you the login. Like
you sure you gave me the login? I don't feel like you ever gave me the login.
The funny thing is, Zach, I'll tell you right now, It's our Instagram password too. So just use the Instagram password because you know what that is, right?
Pretty sure it's saved somewhere. My guys,
So yeah, let's jump right in. I think everyone would like to know how we all met. So why don't you guys go first? We'll let Eddie tell the story because Zach claims to be a storyteller, but oh god, I can only handle so much of that.
Yeah, all right.
This is happening.
He also doesn't like to talk about how I met because he's super embarrassed by it. But when we first met, we met on Tumblr. He was in the rockabilly scene, and he had a rockabilly-style Tumblr. There was a friend/writer of mine who had been on Tumblr, and she was trying to show me around and everything, because we met on the previous site. She was like, "Hey, by the way, I'm super into like this one guy," because she was like into the rockabilly aesthetic too. She actually writes for classic cars. But she shows me, and then I saw how skinny and pale and pasty he was.
That's a bit rough. I feel.
And like the Sharpie black hair, and then I was like, "Oh man, that's the guy for me." So we got to talking.
I had some muscle. I like to go on record and say I had some muscle. I wasn't just all.
He had some muscle. Anyways, so we got to talking. I did not tell him my age, so.
Oh, great! I'm glad we're going into this detail.
I figure we might as well.
No, it's bad.
I did not tell him his age because I was a little scumbag. I was 17 at the time. When I finally told him, he was like, "Fuck you, I'm out." And then he was out for 2 years, and I was like, "Hey, are you still out?" And he was like, "Kinda." So then he went to prison, and then I asked
something else.
No, yeah, for something else. And April or March of last year, actually, I was like, "Hey, are you still out?" And he was like, "Nah." And so we started dating.
Well, I actually didn't know that you guys knew each other that long before you went to prison. So
yep. So that was 8 years now.
And I like to also go on record and say that both of us are sworn to secrecy about my Tumblr tag.
Oh, Kody knows it.
Yep. Where do you think I get all those pictures, Zach?
Uh-oh. I showed him.
I thought that was like a promise thing.
We made a promise thing. Of course I showed him.
Zach, where do you think I was getting all those pictures of you for the roasts?
I just didn't think about it, I guess, until now.
If you pay me $100, I'll give it to you.
I was nice enough to crop out the Tumblr username and all that in my roasts. And I only used the pictures, so you're welcome.
Let's move on to the next question.
Well, it's Allison's turn.
It is Allison's turn now.
Hello.
Sorry, Allison, first of all, it's so nice to see you outside of the kitchen.
Oh my God.
It's lovely that Kody allowed you to come out today.
Thank you, sir.
How about we don't try to get Kody canceled?
Yeah. Will you just let the woman speak, Kody? Please.
Permission to speak, sir?
Oh my God.
Kody, it's her turn.
God damn it, Kody.
Okay. So we went to neighboring high schools. He actually dated one of my friends, and then once he was 18 and not a day younger, when he was younger, we met I went to one of my friend's birthday parties, and there was this little kid who ran up with silly string, and he was like, "Ah!" He like sprayed my friend and ran away. And my friend Ryan was like, "Oh yeah, it's my protege." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to marry that guy someday." And so anyway, didn't see him for a few years. I came back from college, and we ended up talking and just really hit it off. And now it's been like 8 years.
It's been 9 years.
God damn it, Kody, if you don't let her talk.
No, I need help sometimes because I forget how many years. Yeah, so.
Jesus.
But.
I was helping
he
clarify.
Because I'm introverted and sometimes I lose track of where I'm going. But yeah,
no, Allison,
I think that's about all of it. I think.
Yeah, and when me and Allison,
this man has gaslit you into believing that, Allison, and we feel so very bad.
It's like a manipulation.
Wow, guys.
No, honestly though, as someone who's really introverted, I love group settings with him because he fills the room because he's so like bubbly and extroverted that I can just people don't bother. Nice. So,
Allison, if you're in danger, all we're saying, order a pizza sometime.
For us.
But yeah, no, originally too, I started liking him when he was like 15 and I just got my license was he was like an emo boy, and I was really into that, being an emo girl, but I wasn't allowed to have the hair that the girls had at that time. Like,
I was the exact same way.
hair, like scene hair. I wasn't allowed to have that, but he was allowed to do all the stuff. So I'll find a picture, actually. We'll get back to that.
You know what's crazy? He was attracted to me, and I had these black dot eyebrows from Sharpie. And then he looked at me, and he was like, "Oh, yes."
That's the one.
You saw a 160-pound heroin addict model and was like, yeah, that's my guy. So
I seen a 90-pound, like, My Chemical Romance, but underweight. Yeah.
Let's say Fallout Boy. He's a
Oh,
little
gosh.
My Chemical Romance.
yeah.
Wow, you're not even gonna give that to me. How rude.
Fucking Patrick
I'm with you. The
Yeah, you got stumped. You got stumped.
Stumped.
But
Whatever your
Oh, yeah, I swear to God, who told you you could talk?
I was gonna ask another question.
Sure.
Zachary.
This is fun.
Listen here, Zacharias Phoebe Gallowop. I'm gonna ask the second question now.
That's my fourth most popular search on Google.
Hey,
under my
Zachary?
name.
Zachary?
Yeah.
Are you smoking in my house?
No.
No.
So here's Kody at prom.
Aww.
This is the friend. No, this one. Or wait, no, I can't move my thumb. It's the only finger. The one in the blue is the friend's birthday party I went to. So, yeah.
That's gonna be really nice.
Friendly reminder that I am
See how
from
goofy
text
you
line.
look.
I appreciate it.
So the next question would be, how did your guys' families react when they met us?
So far, only my mother and my godmother have formally met him. I have a cousin who might follow your podcast, but follows him, and she's fine with it. The other family who might have a problem, we have not told yet, and we probably won't. Although my mom kind of let it slip that he was on parole to one of them.
So more or less they know.
Yeah, more or less they know. But my mother, she's cautiously optimistic, and my Aunt Leadine, which is my godmom, could give less of a shit.
Which realistically is the best that you can expect in that situation. I mean, to anybody who's got a record or anything like that, you got to approach these things with a grain of salt, because you may be who you are today, but the reality is you haven't always been. And, you know, that follows you around. It's just an opportunity to prove yourself. So.
Yeah. Oh, and my new aunt also follows you on TikTok anyway, so.
Lunesta?
Not Lunesta. Ludine's new wife, Amy.
I'm pretty sure her name's Lunesta. Almost
We're
positive.
getting divorced.
So they got to see the maid video today then?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I suppose that's your turn then, huh? How did your family react?
Yeah, so my dad's a really, great dad, and met Kody, and he was like, oh, he seems really nice, and that was that. And my mom hated him a lot.
A lot.
A lot. What's that?
Tell us more about the mom.
Yeah,
A bad family story.
well, she's passed away now. She did have some, like, alcoholism issues.
Why did you go full Wisconsin?
It's Wisconsin. Yeah, that's a good point. But
full Wisconsin accent. It was just interesting.
oh, thanks.
Oh.
Oh, but she met him when we were just friends in like high school, and she liked him okay. But once she found out we were dating, she gave him like maybe 3 weeks of courtesy, and then she decided she didn't like him. And once she made her mind up about someone, that was it. There was no second chance.
What was the severity about liking him? Was it like locking him out of the house bad, or?
She came to our wedding, but she was very vocal. She didn't like him, and anywhere she could criticize, she would. Like, I remember when we lived in our trailer house, I ended up hanging up, or no, she hung up on me one day because I called her and I was telling her about how I was redoing our bathroom. I bought like some blue paint and like some shiplap type wallpaper, and I don't know, the whole thing cost me like $100. And she was like, I got halfway through telling her about it because I was really excited. I was like, yeah, it looks really cool. Like, we used to have that plain like brown trailer panels. And I was like, yeah, it's turned out really good. Looks really nice. Barely was through my story. And she's like, well, did Kody pay for any of it? And I was like, well, that has nothing to do with anything. And she's like, well, and I was like, he didn't really want it redone, but he's letting me do it. So yeah, I paid for it because it's my project. Well, he paid for, just little microaggressions like that constantly. Anything she could like pick out about him, just yeah. And then the wedding, I told her I was stressed about it like 2 weeks beforehand because every bride is. So, that's the way it is. Weddings are stressful. But 2 weeks beforehand, I told her I was stressed. And she's like, oh, second thoughts.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So I was like, no, not second thoughts. Normal wedding stress,
And that was 5 years after us being together.
Yeah.
And so granted, the first 2 years is really when I started struggling. We started dating when I was 17, and I started having my schizophrenic symptoms when I turned about 19. So those first 2 years were really bad for me because I started having all my symptoms. I started having, addiction issues because of my symptoms. But even after I, served my time and got out and everything, it seemed like nothing I did really could fix how she felt about me.
No.
And that was unfortunate because I'm one of those people that I try really hard to get everyone to like me because I'm super outgoing, and especially people that are stuck in my life. I try to, make that work.
Yeah.
And, well, I mean, she was stuck in my life, whether I liked it or not. So I tried to make it work.
Yeah.
And one of those things where she just looked at me as a bad kid, no matter what I accomplished after the fact.
My dad's been someone, no matter who you are, where you come from, he's always willing to give you that chance. It's not that you have to prove yourself to him. He's open-minded. You're a blank slate. He'll let you meet him and, just, I forgot how I was wording that, but just basically ready to meet you and give you the benefit of the doubt. She wouldn't do that. So Dad automatically liked him. He's seen how he treated me, and he realized Kody had a lot of problems. Mom wasn't aware of everything, whereas me and my dad are really close. So every inch of everything Kody's been through, I've been through, he knew about. And he's seen how good Kody's heart is and like how good he treated me. That's all Dad cared about. Everything else doesn't matter as long as like I'm happy and being treated well. So Dad's always liked him just because he sees like me and Kody are a lot alike in being unorganized. Is a nice way to put that.
Yeah.
We're both kind of, we don't know where the keys are, but we both gotta be at work at 5 and it's 4:59, but we make it work. So
yeah,
we're both like that. So
we got a good question in the chat though, if we want to address that real quick. Cody, you want to read that out?
It's not a question, it's a comment.
Or a comment?
Yeah, so someone else commented, they said, I also dated someone on parole. My family reacted half and half, but they've come around now. And I really do think if people are willing to give you a chance, it sucks that we have to be put in a position where we have to win people over. But I do think there's part of me even that based on certain charges, I might be weary. So I try to look at it like that. People look me up online and see my charges. I'm like, yeah, I guess I could see why someone might be skeptical about like the way I act and what I do on a day-to-day.
So there's like this inherent sexism in dating where men often have to prove themselves to the females and the females' families, I should specify, and it's got to be a lot harder when you're mentally ill or have a criminal record. So like even with my extended family, my great grandmother is still alive. We have not told her the full extent of what Zachary's deal is because at the end of the day, she's just not going to get it, and she's always going to find something wrong with it. Well,
there was something wrong with it.
There was something wrong with it, but there isn't something wrong now. But she's going to, continue. As I said before, my mom accidentally let it slip that he was on parole.
Yeah.
We wanted to tell her nothing, which seemed kind of crazy because you've met him. He's fucking covered in scars and stories and shit.
Yeah.
But my mom was on the phone with her one day, and then she's like, "Oh, well, Zach can't come yet because he's on parole." And my grandmother's like, "On parole?" And she tells me this in hindsight. I'm like, "What'd you tell her? What'd you try to explain?" She's like, "Oh, for parking violations." I'm like, no one is that stupid. So we're gonna have to admit next time I see her, which is probably this summer, that it's fucking everything. Because
I would much rather go down for what I went down for than fucking parking violations.
Who goes on parole for parking violations?
I'm sure it's happened.
You can't even drive. How are you gonna justify that?
I'm just saying, in this world, if I'm known for something and those are my two options, I choose the latter.
She's 89. We won't have to deal with it for long.
Still. But also, it's a good note that honestly, people do look on you. Everyone across the board, people you meet in everyday life, they're going to look down on you in every way, socially, economically. They're going to assume things. And the only real option that you have is to, one, prove them right or prove them wrong. You know, you can rise to the occasion. You can be more than just an inmate. You can be more than just whatever you are. That's the way I look at it, because I can't change how they look at me. I can only change how I respond to that.
I really agree with you. Don't you ever get exhausted of that, though? Because I feel like I'm always trying to prove myself. And maybe my mental illness plays a big role into this, because my mental illness, it's not always visible, but when it is, it's very visible. Like if I'm talking to myself, then I just feel like I have to prove myself as like a sane, competent person even more. Because I actively work and I like working. It's like I could have accepted disability a while ago. My psychiatrist tried to get me to go on disability, but I like working. It makes me feel more normal. And so the frustrating part with that is not only do I have a felony, I also have schizophrenia. So I feel like I'm constantly trying to prove myself, and it gets exhausting. I don't know if you deal with that too, because I know you struggle with your felony, but you also have mental health issues as well.
This actually kind of rolls into our next question, doesn't it?
I think so.
A little bit.
Yeah, so the next question that we had was, what's it like being in a relationship with someone with a serious mental health issue? So as everyone knows, I suffer from schizophrenia.
And I suffer from PTSD and anxiety.
So people always ask us what it's like living with it.
Man. Like I genuinely dislike saying that. I know that's my job. I know that's what we do, but I'm still like, I hate saying that. I just want to go on the record and say that.
You don't like being mentally ill?
Kind of. Like I dislike that tag. I know it goes against what I just said, but like I hate saying it myself, I guess is what I'm saying. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a stigma, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a stigma with that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question again?
I don't think you got to the question.
I think we did.
Yeah, we did. We got to the question, Zach. So the question is, what is it like dating someone with a serious mental illness, or just being with someone that struggles with a very serious mental illness?
Allison, do you want to hit this first?
Sure. So we kind of grew up together because when I met him, he might have shown maybe a few symptoms of schizophrenia, but he didn't have it yet. And he really didn't have, the hallucinations or delusions. So to me, it's almost normalcy, because when I met him and then to where we are today, it's changed a lot, but I was kind of with him through the whole journey. So I don't know. It's been good. I feel like it helps him understand like my mental health better. I guess explaining it to friends is something I've done recently. So that's been different, because they're like, oh, wow, is everything okay? Like they're all concerned. I'm like, everything's the same. It's been for the past 5 years. I just haven't told you guys. So,
when he first started having like hallucinations and real like episodes, was it hard for you to deal with and cope with that at first? I mean, I would assume you had really no training or anything at that point. It was just kind of
very hard, but he was also in active addiction at that point, and that was probably the hardest time of our relationship. We'd just gotten our first place together. I went to high school, and then I went off to college. I'd lived in the dorms, and then we both transferred to a town near us to both go to college, so we ended up getting a place together. First few months were fine, and then I think it's his symptoms really started to kick in, and therefore he got more into his addiction kind of to cope. And there was days when he just wasn't there. He worked overnights and he wasn't getting enough sleep mixed with his addiction, and I'd go to wake him up. There was a few times he just wouldn't wake up. Like I could tell he's breathing and alive, but he just physically could not be shaken awake. There was other times when he would wake up, he was just out of it. I'd ask him a question and he'd respond with words that didn't, like, word garbage, basically. Hey, what time do you have to be at work? I want 7-Up. Like, none of it made sense. So that was really hard to deal with, because I felt at that point like I was losing him, and I didn't know. I was scared because I didn't know where it was going. I'm like, is he going to come out of this? Is he going to become almost disabled to the point where he can't take care of himself? So that got really scary.
Did
And
you
that was mixed with
do you have a hard time differentiating between mental health symptoms versus addiction symptoms?
I thought it was mostly addiction at that point because he was not open with the mental health symptoms. I think he never talked about it. When we were first starting to be friends, when he was like 15, he said something about, oh, I could be schizophrenic someday. And like, that was it. He never really talked about it. So I didn't know it was even a possibility. I didn't know his mom had schizoaffective. I knew she'd had addiction issues in the past, but as far as mental health, I didn't know anything about it. And mental health wasn't something we really talked about in my household.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no idea. So I really thought it was mostly addiction. So at that point, I'm like, is he just that addicted to things that he's just gone? It was scary. It really was.
It's so weird how, like pretty much anyone in mental health will admit at some point in time they consider the option of just being an addict. Like, oh, it was just my addiction. Like, but the reality is it goes so much fucking deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a hard thing to live with.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looking back, I think it was mostly untreated schizophrenia because he just probably couldn't sleep, with the symptoms and yeah.
Yeah, and I never talked to her about it because when schizophrenic symptoms first start, most commonly it manifests in different ways, but most commonly it manifests with paranoia and delusions. I was too paranoid. I thought she was going to harm me in some way or try to put me in a mental institution.
Mm-hmm.
There was a while where I genuinely thought she was poisoning and trying to poison me, and I stopped eating any food she gave me.
Mm-hmm.
And like she said, I didn't talk about it until after I got diagnosed because I knew that I was struggling, but to admit that to someone, especially someone that close to you, and I wouldn't even tell my mom, and she suffers from schizoaffective disorder, but I knew the moment I started telling people, I'd have to go get treatment, I'd have to go get meds, I'd have to, and I was too afraid to do it is the problem.
You don't want it to be real.
Yeah.
And we were like early in our relationship and I was just kind of a closed off person. He was my first serious boyfriend and I didn't know you were at that point supposed to share things. I was really closed off. I didn't share my feelings. I didn't ask him so much about his, I'm just like, oh, we're happy all the time. We don't argue, which I used to think arguing.
You guys are kind of that. You guys are that weird story of like the people who actually did it.
Yeah.
Fell in love in fucking high school and they became that fucking couple we all have to hear about on Facebook. Like you've done it.
Right? Well, I'm like, I thought arguing was like bad. And like, so I never would bring anything up. I wouldn't ask him about it. And then, so I think that made it take longer too to realize what was even going on. So, yeah.
For me, when I first met him, I didn't know the full extent of, what his symptoms were because, I was 17 and very, self-focused. We were online. So, you can always have that barrier right there. And also being the age I was dealing with my own mental health unchecked and abuse during the time. So I didn't really see it then, and I still have a hard time seeing it now. But it's always funny because, I saw Zach go from 0 followers on TikTok to 1.3 million now. And of the people that we met, like, on the street, they never ask, oh, how's your mental health? They all ask, like, oh, how's shocking? How's this? That? Are you really that short?
Yeah. Appreciate that.
But,
that's canon now, folks.
It is canon. So, like, people don't ask about the mental health, and it's kind of weird because, like, that's the first thing. He told me the thing that caught his eye about me was the first thing I ever asked him was how he was doing. And nobody asks him now how he's doing, even though he's 1.3 million. So, like, a lot of the struggle he may have with PTSD and anxiety, it's kind of, I feel like he thinks it's like a battle for himself. And we're trying to learn how to make it a partnership, make it a team, because I gained a lot of independence being single for as long as I was. He gained a lot of independence doing everything he did and being in prison and everything. And we're acknowledging that both of us are a team, and the only way we can help each other is talking about it. And of course, learning coping mechanisms and what have you. But, living with him with mental health, it can be a struggle and it can be super scary. But I never once doubted that this is the person I wanted and this is who I was wanting to fight for, because Jesus Christ, I fought for you.
Man, I'm so glad that this is going to be one of our low viewer things, because the reality is what we're talking about here is real. There's so many things that people just romanticize about mental health issues. I know they do on our fan base sometimes, and it seems cute, and it seems like it's something you can play off of until your fiance goes on a bender and goes missing for 3 days, and until somebody starts having hallucinations and a breakdown in the middle of, what do you guys have gas stations there? Wawa? I don't know.
They don't have Wawa.
We have Wawa.
Yeah, we have a quick trip here.
The point being that the dark side of it is that you guys have to put up with so much on a daily basis. The ins and outs of it, I can't imagine what it's like.
Well, it's gonna be really cheesy to say, but it's genuinely a labor of love. Like,
oh, so cheesy.
Oh God.
Like,
the cheese.
The pictures.
They got them bulking because it's a lot of cheese.
When you love someone,
Like right now,
it seems so obvious that you would help them at their darkest point. And I've known his darkest point. I've been through as much as I possibly could. And, you're going to help him through the other side. So it's like, it's not hard work. I don't feel like I'm owed anything. It just seems so, like, and I assume Allison is the same way. It just seems so obvious that we're going to take care of each other. Like, of course, I'm going to take care of your mental health just like I'm going to, like, cook you dinner at some point. Not now. But.
At some point.
In this world.
In this scenario, I cook him dinner.
Oh. Well, and I guess that feeds into another, conversation about stigma. When you introduce Zach to people and they find out about his criminal record, or when people find out about my criminal record, what stigma have you guys received as people who are willingly in a relationship with criminals or addicts, or what kind of stigma does that entail for you guys?
It's a little hard for me to say because our relationship started and has entirely existed during the time of COVID.
Okay.
So my human interaction has been slight to minimum. However, every so often I do go out, and sometimes, the majority of our relationship is long distance relationship. So it's just me introducing him when he wasn't there. And I don't have a lot of stories. I do remember there's one person in particular when I was out at a goth bar, because I am goth. I was just talking to him. I was like, oh yeah, I'm dating this guy Zach. I've loved him for years. Like, he's the one I've always wanted to marry. I'm so happy. And then he was like, hot felon. And I'm like, okay. And then like, he didn't trust him, number one, for being long distance, which whatever, and didn't trust him, number two, for being like a felon. And I'm like, dude, we're at a goth bar where like 90% of the male patrons here groom 17 and 16-year-old girls.
Shout out to the goth culture.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was like, maybe he's not the worst person ever. Like, maybe calm down. I remember, like, I was about to fight him if he wasn't, like, currently hanging out with my boss. But,
I feel like, I don't mean to jump on your question here, but a lot of the times just, the interactions we've had at bars and stuff, is people tend to treat me a little bit like a dancing Muppet. Like, they just immediately unleash these really weird, probing, inappropriate questions that you shouldn't ask someone realistically. Tell me about your deepest trauma. Like, that's the second thing you're saying to someone.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. The most common question I get is, tell me your worst hallucinations. Maybe no. Maybe we won't do that.
It's like going up to someone and saying, like, hey, can you tell me about that time, like, you shit yourself in public?
Yeah. Basically on par with that.
Do you want to tell that story? Save it for another time.
But on the plus side, the people who are supportive and have been aware of him and may have followed him on TikTok or whatnot, see you later. They've been supportive. They might have asked a question or two. I remember the other night we actually went to that same bar, me and him, And he met one of my friends, and my friend is a native Spanish speaker. And they had a conversation because apparently he speaks with a prison dialect in Spanish.
That's where I learned.
Like he has a prison accent in Spanish.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah. Because he was like, he just started speaking back to him, and he was like, "Oh, you're from prison."
Yeah, he clocked me real fucking quick, man. Oh, it was bad. I didn't even get through my sentence. Oh, you prison, right? Like, yeah. Prison.
But Allison, I think it's your turn.
Me? Oh man. So currently not a lot because I'm an introvert, as I've like emphasized, and I don't go anywhere. So anyone who like comes into my home knows already. The only weird interaction I can think is when the summer you were in jail, I went to a friend's wedding, and one of my friend's brothers was like, "Where's Kody?" Not knowing they already knew he was in jail. And I was like, "Oh, he's busy at work, blah, blah, excuses." Because I wasn't going to tell anyone besides my close friends. And he's like, "No, where is he?" And I was like, "Oh, he's in jail." He's like, "Nice," like as a sarcasm. And I was like, yeah, so that was awkward.
I still think you should let me deck this guy.
What's that?
I still think you should let me deck this guy.
Do it.
I mean, I consider it a mitzvah.
Wasn't there a date that you went on before we started dating where you told the person that you were in a gated community for a couple of years?
Yes.
That's funny.
Talk about the safest, like no one from the outside could get to you in this community. Like top of the line gated
Class
community.
reunion. That's like class reunion lie. Like,
But
in a gated community.
But did I lie?
You have to go through a vetting process to get to this community.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Samantha, wherever you are. Samantha out there in Parker, Arizona. Cheers to you.
That's her busyness of fame. You're too spoiled after her.
Sorry, Sammy. Didn't make it in the book, but you got on the show. So, there you go.
It's awesome.
Yeah, so I don't know.
I like how this is basically just turned into like a round table with us.
Oh, yeah. It's like that 70s show, minus the rotating camera.
Please.
But honestly,
We'll get
if anyone watching live wants to ask any questions for Eddie and Allison, please let us know, because we get questions for you guys all the time on our videos and in our lives. I know in my videos, especially anytime Allison even pops her head in, people ask, what's it like living with someone with schizophrenia? How do her parents feel about you being schizophrenic? And then I'm sure Zach gets a lot of the same comments about Eddie in his comment section too. So
it's more along the lines of like, what is that, a guy or a girl? Is your boyfriend a guy or a girl?
Non-stop with that.
Yeah.
But
just a quick question.
Can I ask it?
oh, let's take a minute and just throw this idea out there, since we're kind of just doing a roundtable here. Probably should have discussed it more in detail beforehand, but here we go. So you know that shit that Eric's doing, right? Eric B. Zach?
yeah, we gotta talk about that again next week, I think. But for those of you who don't know, Eric B. Zink is a predator we talked about on this app. We did an entire episode about him. And next week, unfortunately, we have to address it again. There's some updates and there's some things that need to be discussed. But we want to save more time for that.
Yeah, it kind of ties into who we're having on the show. We're having, what's his name?
I don't have their username, but we are having someone who has been a victim of sexual assault in the past, and they're really open about talking about it, and they want to discuss it in a setting where they feel safe and where they're not going to trigger anyone. So that's why we're doing the entire episode kind of as something that's going to be a little triggering if you've dealt with sexual assault, sexual violence. And so just a warning before next week.
Well, full disclosure to you guys out there, if that bothers you in some way, shape, or form, by all means, skip to the next episode. We'll still be here. Won't take it personally. But we are going to be talking about some pretty graphic stuff. We have a lot of screenshots, We've been contacted by people who was in his Discord, and we're going to address some predatorial issues in general on the app that we've been kind of working on. But like you said, we'll get to that next episode. So
yeah.
What a weird intro.
Huh?
All right. Let's answer a couple questions because I am seeing some in here. So I think this could go both ways, but we'll ask it for Allison first, and then Eddie. I'm sure you struggle with mental health of some sort as well.
Depression and ADHD.
Yeah. So someone asked, how does Kody handle Allison's anxiety? So I guess, Zach, this would be a good question for you. How do you handle Eddie's depression and ADHD, being that we already suffer from our own serious mental health issues? And this is something that I will admit, when my symptoms first started and I first got that diagnosis of schizophrenia, I wasn't great about it because I'm like, and this is going to make me sound bad, but when it started out, I wasn't as accepting of things like anxiety and depression because I looked at my mental illness as somehow worse or somehow harder to deal with. Now I've realized that
you were used to being the prima donna. Just say what it is.
Yeah. Okay, fine. That's what it is. But my point is, my point is that it was something that I had to learn to like understand. It's just as bad, just different. And so once I started like really understanding more what she struggled with, anxiety, depression, and then I had a issue where I started dealing with some of those like myself, and then I realized how serious it really was. The best way I dealt with it was just listening. Allison, I have a tendency to fix things. I just want to fix everything. And sometimes Allison's just, I wish she would have told me early on, like, hey, shut up. I just want to talk about it. Because my go-to is like, oh, I can fix it somehow. You can't fix anxious feelings or depression, and I would always like feel bad like it was something I was doing. I had to learn a lot, I think. And I don't know if that's the same for you, Zach.
I think for me, so anybody with a mental illness that has episodes or anything like that, and I have mine, you're used to being the prima donna, like I said. So a part of it is understanding that somebody else needs help, and you need to tend to them as well. That's a real realization for anybody with mental health issues. I'm not just saying that's good or bad either way. But fortunately with us, whenever he goes into a depressive episode or anything like that, we've gotten to a point where we're pretty good at communicating. I'll just ask him, hey, what do you want from me? What can I do? And he'll answer, leave me alone. Doritos.
Boba.
More often it's boba. But just very basic communication, and it's really not that big of a headache, to be honest with you.
And as far as my ADHD goes, I just run around and clean the house.
Yeah. When's that going to start?
I've been doing it all damn day.
You run around and do shit, sure. None of it's cleaning the house.
Sir, you watch Orange is the New Black all damn day. How would you know?
I am an important creator. Respect me.
Oh, God.
Super important.
Where?
Mostly in Ireland. I'm not sure why. That's still a real thing in my life.
So
shout out to 80% of my followers, by the way. So
the next question here is, it's actually not a question. It just says, I want Allison and Eddie to know I think they're cute beans and have pretty hair.
Thank you, Danny Dessert.
I made it myself.
This seems like a trick question. Like seems like they're trying to start a fight.
Yeah,
this question is,
what is this month?
What is your least favorite thing about your partner's podcast partner?
I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
I don't like this either.
You want to go first?
I'll start.
Of course you'll start. Of course.
Yeah, you guys both seemed way too excited to answer this question.
All right, my least favorite thing about Kody.
All right.
Number one.
Oh, there's multiple.
Hair's too patchy.
Oh,
Hair's too patchy.
Hair or beard?
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to talk about your hairline. I think it'll hurt.
Yeah. It's dog.
Follow me.
Homie, I will send you some testosterone. Right.
I like my hair. My beard is a little patchy. I'll give you that one.
Dog, listen. I will send you some testosterone.
Number two, he doesn't have Minecraft, so he can't play Minecraft with me.
I do.
I know. We're gonna talk about it later. We'll talk about it later. But to do like the end of the roast session, I actually like Kody a lot. We have had discussions before where we both like manned up and had really heart-to-heart, serious important discussions, and he helped a lot. So
I don't think people always realize that we are like friends in real life. This isn't just
the
a job.
best friends.
I wouldn't say best friends.
The best. He'll wake me up at 2 a.m. and he'll shake me and be like, Eddie, babe. I'm like, what? I'm sleeping. And he was like, you think Cody's okay? He's gonna have a bad episode today. I hope he's okay.
That happened one time.
He's like, hey, I'm sure he's okay. And then he's like, should I call him? I'm like, no, he's probably asleep. I'm like, he was like, I should call him. I'm like, check if he's on live. And he was like, okay, I'll check. I'm like, he's not on live. I'm like, okay, he's asleep. He's like, you sure? I'm like, yeah. Sure. He's like, okay.
Cody's not like that.
Just so we set the record straight, I did not sound nearly as campy or pathetic in this situation.
Yeah, Cody's not like that at all. Like after Zach was out here, like there wasn't a week of, did he have fun? Do you think Zach had fun? I hope he had a good
week.
So you're both really going to just out us like that, huh?
We've been so much worse.
That's true.
We're mostly through the podcast. We've been so good.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I feel like it could have been worse.
So, Allison, what do you hate about Zach?
Oh man, I really hate to out him.
Do you?
Do it.
When he was here, we opened our home to him, and so after he left, I went for my ice cream, my almond milk ice cream, and I checked the freezer, not there. I'm like, oh, maybe I misplaced it. Yeah, a couple days go by, I go in the fridge, took one bite out of it, put it back in the fridge, not the freezer.
To melt. Can I tell you something? The worst part, he doesn't even like ice cream.
Looking in your soul.
Like, I tried to take him out to ice cream before. He's like, nah, babe, I don't like ice cream.
What's his favorite food?
Cigarettes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna smoke all of your cigarettes.
That's valid.
In fairness, he loves beans, rice, and pizza.
Ooh.
It's the perfect food for bulking. Anyone out there you're trying to bulk, try the beans, rice, and pizza diet. Just like 3 times a day, you're good, G.
All right, so we do
my ice cream.
Oh, your ice cream, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you should say things you like about Zach too, because that's how Eddie ended his.
He's funny.
He is pretty funny, but looks ain't everything.
He's a great
am I right?
Great actor with all the Oh no. Oh, the thing where he tells a joke and then he's like
I don't do that in real life.
Yeah, he does.
No, but on the TikTok, the first time you did it, I about died.
You already chain smoking?
Yes.
We do have
this is a very stressful episode.
We do have another question. It says, how hard was everyone's learning curve to live with your respective spouses, different quirks and health issues?
Should we start?
This is a shitstorm of a question.
So like our first week, I won't go into the intimate details. But
Thank you.
It was a shit show. Our first week was like make it or break it. We were probably going to break up. We could not figure out each other for like half a second.
It was bad.
It was really fucking bad. It was like nearly storming at the door, screaming matches at 2 a.m. because we just couldn't understand our mental health. And we couldn't understand how to exist around each other because we both been raised so independent and so different from each other. But we loved each other and
we stuck it out though. I mean, that fucking that first week was hell. And, we turned into that couple. I mean, there was no violence.
Yeah.
But we were definitely awake at like you said, 2 a.m, screaming our guts out. I'm sure our neighbors fucking appreciated it.
Yeah.
But I mean,
and then just one day we ended up for some reason stopping the screaming and just talking until like I had like 4 more hours before work. And it was just like we had every conversation we needed to have in order for it to work. And
which was a lot of conversations.
Yeah. It was, I wouldn't say like the smoothest sailing since then, but because we've had our own mental health issues in between then, but
it's certainly been as good as you could possibly expect it to be.
it only gets bad because we feel bad, not because we're mad at each other. Because we're not mad at each other anymore. We love each other. We want it to work, and we know if we could deal with that 1 week, we can fucking deal with anything.
That's very true.
Yeah. So.
I don't know if we're keeping track, but I feel like we're winning.
Whoa. There's no winning here. There's just happiness and friendship, Zachary.
That sounds like something a loser would say.
We do have another question, and this one I actually am interested in your guys' opinion. It says, Allison and Eddie, does it annoy you that Kody and Zach spend a lot of time streaming?
It honestly annoys me that he doesn't do enough streaming.
Right?
Like, Zach is a man of his creature comforts, and he does not want to stray away from these creature comforts, so most of the day is smoking TikTok and watching TV. And I'm like, don't you want to play a video game? He's like, no.
Okay. That's not fair. I don't feel that's fair. I do more than just smoking and TikTok. I obviously I work out.
You wonder, Polly's our next door neighbor.
Yeah, I hang out with Polly a lot.
He's like, oh my god.
I've never started any sentence ever with "oh my god." But please continue.
My godmom had gifted him like half a box of cigars while we were on a trip to Florida just this weekend.
Nice cigars.
Very nice cigars. Cuban, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cuban cigars. And like the first thing he wanted to do when we got home, he's like, I gotta show Polly. I gotta give Polly some of these.
It's not. I didn't do it with that face.
Polly.
I definitely didn't call it. It was a much.
He was so excited.
It was a much more masculine.
Polly.
So with Kody, he's very confident. Let's put it that way.
Just say loud and obnoxious. You don't have to.
Confident, good self-confidence. And it was so nice for Kody to meet someone who just knocks him down a few pegs. I mean, Zach does that. It's funny.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I think we're a good balance for each other.
I like it.
Honestly, yeah, we have a very chaotic relationship, but it works in a weird way. And it's one of those things where if it doesn't, it's definitely going to like end the universe. But, if it does, it's going to be amazing. And so far, it's been good. So either way, I'm here for the show.
Absolutely. And speaking of the show and speaking of our bromance here, someone just asked me, will the lawnmower 3.0 cut my lawn? And I think this is a good time to talk about our sponsor, Manscaped.
Your balls.
Shout out to Manscaped. This is a good question to plug in. So obviously, how's your using of the Manscaped product going for you?
I love it. Honestly, I feel like I'm using like the ball deodorant more than the shaver itself. But like those products, the toner and deodorant, I can't believe I ever didn't use them.
It's one of those things where it just sounds so weird, and then you use it and you're like, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah. Absolutely. And to answer your question, the lawnmower 3.0, I feel like it could cut at least part of your lawn. It seems like a really inefficient way to do it.
Like this is not something that we should say on a podcast that's sponsored by them in case somebody actually does it. Just reminder, we are in America. So there's somebody who's going to try that. So don't use the lawnmower 3.0 to cut your lawn. It's not something we endorse.
Try not to use the lawnmower 3.0 to cut your lawn.
Then great question, Zach. They can explain how to use it because this person, Anna, said she's considering asking fiance if they're serious about buying Manscaped before using our code. So
how do you use it?
Oh my God. My ma watches this. My ma. Hi, Ma.
Here's half a ball.
All right, here's half a ball. All right, so the cool thing about the Manscaped product is with most electric razors, it's going to hurt in one way, shape, or form. But with the Manscaped product, the lawnmower, even though it doesn't hurt at all, it's actually going to freak you out the first time because you're expecting it to hurt. It looks like it's going to hurt. But as you kind of just start at the base and just go up, kind of similar if you were gonna like crop your hair or anything.
Is that an against the grain motion or with the grain?
I'm Jewish. There is no grain. They all go different directions.
Kody, what do you think? Against the grain or with the grain?
With the grain.
Okay.
So Kody says with the grain. I don't have that battle. It's basically a fro. That's why I use Manscaped.
Oh my gosh.
What?
Can attest.
Don't be anti-Semitic. Don't be anti-Semitic.
Well, this is our last 5 minutes.
Yeah. But yeah, you basically just run it smoothly and it takes care of it for you. No pain, no hassle. You can use it in the shower. It is a good buy.
And just a reminder that if you use the code, sorry, Zach, can you read that for me? I can't read what our code is for our promo on manscaped.com.
If you use the code GALAWAP at manscaped.com, you get 20% off and free shipping. So we're still doing that? Like, we haven't altered that code? I feel like at this point we can do that, right? We can.
I feel like it's too late at this point. I feel like it's set in stone. So for anyone who didn't hear that, the code is GALAWAP for, you know, our friend Zacharias, Phoebe Galawap.
This is my legacy. This is what I'm known for.
And our final reminder before we say thank you to our spouses for being here, just a final reminder from Manscaped. Zach can finally shave his old man balls. Make sure you check out manscaped.com and use that code GALAWAP.
You're the reason I smoke, Kody.
I'm so glad to hear that. But thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. You know, Zach.
Do we maybe want to give, my gentleman and your lady just a minute to say whatever if they want? I mean,
Absolutely. I love that idea.
Ladies first.
Me on. Okay. Thanks for having me on. It's been fun.
Do you want to plug your...
Oh, I'm Nature Daydream. So I do have a TikTok. If you would like to follow me, I have a lot of fun, wholesome stuff. So I would love to see you. So yeah.
you're so bad at this. This is adorable.
It's honestly,
Alex.
I'm not trying to suck your dick on Maine, but you're like one of the cutest TikToks. Like I barely look at Cody's TikToks, but I always look at yours because you do like the cutest couple stuff and you got like the little voice and then you'll be like a little insecure and like, ooh. And I love it so much. It's so cute.
Thanks.
And it's such a fucking contrast to Cody's content, you know?
I know.
Wow, guys.
But it's funny because I don't know. I'm like part of 2 different TikToks. I'm like alt and Christian TikTok at the same time, running into each other, and it's just kind of a fun time.
Yeah, see you guys, I'm friends with one Christian.
Me too.
You can bust that out like, I'm not being anti-Christian. I've got a Christian friend.
No. Good friend.
Yo, homie, give me the Nicene Creed real quick. You know? Yeah,
So I'm already heard Edison, which you can see right there. I am an artist. I also like to be mean in public. But I am a fantastic artist. You can also find my tag on Instagram, Facebook, and Tumblr, but I don't do Tumblr anymore. You can see my art. You can see me be mean to people. I also am more chatty than these fucking people, besides Allison. So
I would like to point out that he is as much of an asshole, or as much of an asshole he is, he's actually known more for his art. That's how that's how good your art is. You're really more well known for your art.
I mean, I did work with musicians.
Yeah, you've done some great stuff. You are admittedly a gigantic asshole. And by the way, guys, our opinions are not always the same, so don't get those confused.
They usually are.
They usually are. Disclaimer.
Yeah, 99%.
99% of the time.
But seriously, I feel like this was a good idea, and I think there's still a lot of conversation that we could have about what it's like to, you know, be in a relationship with someone with felony, mental health stuff. I think we just scratched the surface. So I would be happy to have you guys back. And since you were really mean to me this episode, I'm sure Zach would love to have you both back.
Well, since I'm getting close to 30K, you might need to start talking to my agent if you want to arrange another scheduled podcast.
Got it. And what's your cat's name again?
Loco. El gato está loco.
Go the cat, your agent.
He is a savvy businessman.
He is a savvy businessman. Couldn't get.
Does that mean I have to talk to Daisy for business inquiries for you now?
We're gonna be phone calls.
All right, well, shout out to the fans for listening to this one. You guys have been great. We'll see you next time on the Criminal Mental Podcast. Cody, you want to say anything stupid?
Bye.
Kody Green, ladies and gentlemen. Cody,
Bye.
as they say, always end on a joke.